Hello, guys. It's SirSerrato here, and we just have a special. Well, not too special. It's just that for this one, we're actually short one of our podcasters. We're short the third member of our trio. Fleur is unavailable for this one. Unfortunately, she did have to work, but nothing to worry about. Daramu and we've got it down. So we're starting off the podcast with our simple TV guide synopsis. For this one, I wrote Red enters a bike race competition only to find that his opponents are merely half the obstacles. Any feedback on that?
Oh, that's pretty direct. Straight to the point.
Yeah, it's this wasn't really a funny one. It was more of a fun one. You know how
Yeah.
like the one with like Professor with Bill was a funny one. This
Yeah.
one was just fun. It was just like a fun little adventure.
Yeah.
So
It's
we're
definitely one of my favorite ones. Like out of the ones we've read so far, this was one of my standout ones that I liked.
yeah, because it wasn't emotionally heavy. It was just kind of like it's one of those that if you knew nothing about Pokemon and it was an episode on TV, you could just sit there and just watch it and just enjoy it for what it is. So it's one of those.
100%.
All right, so we're gonna move on to our recap, which this is your first time doing a recap.
This is so a little nervous. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So
So
now you see why I get so nervous about these. So on the last episode, we discussed two characters for you. We gave you Bill and we gave you the Pokedex. So let the listeners know, who did you decide to do the recap as?
I think my final decision is going to be Bill. I went ahead and decided on Bill.
Oh man, I was hoping for the Pokedex.
I was thinking about the Pokedex, but it's like just because this one is such a long synopsis, the Pokedex would be very draining and monotone after a certain point. So I was like, no, that's okay.
Well, you're the one that's always saying you're very robotic. So I was like, oh, then the Pokedex is perfect for him.
Yeah, but I don't think it would be a good listen.
So you're gonna go with Pokemon, man. Like
Yeah.
color red, man. I mean, if you want to go for Boomhauer, go for it. So
I was going to go for a country Bill, but yeah, that was going to be my, yeah.
all right. Well, just take the floor whenever you're ready.
Okay. So, so last time we seen Trainer Red on the next leg of his adventure, he snuck onto a boat called SSN, and oh boy, it did all the floaty things. So we don't honestly know why, but he sort of just did. He wanted to sneak on there. We didn't really say why. So while he's sneaking around on the mysterious Pokemon, it startled Red. And he got kicked off the boat. So after he got kicked out, he meets the head of the Pokemon fan club, and so he very very taken by Red. He really wants to see his Pokeball. It's a little weird for a grown man and a child, but it's okay. He wants to see him anyways. So Red, he started talking to all these trainers, and then he talked about his pole world a little bit, and then afterward he finds out that all their Pokemon are getting stolen. So finally, Red he put two and two together. He's good with math like that, and so he decided take it upon himself, investigate the SSN for all them their stolen Pokemon. So, but first, before he go, he convinced they gotta leave his Pikachu because he got the little chubby cheeks, so he left him up to the fan club. So, using his Bulba and his Poliwhirl, Red sneaks onto the side of the boat and starts sleuthing around. And so, as he's looking around, he finds what he thinks is a Pokeball. But oh boy, color me tickle pink! It was a Voltorb, and it shocked him. It shocked him good. So, anyways, it does some major damage to Poliwhirl, and it kind of puts the little stars in his eyes. So afterward, he gets ambushed by who's in charge of the whole operation, Lieutenant Surge. And oh boy, that's a mountain of a man. So Surge attacks Red with his Electabuzz, forcing Red to go on the defensive. So using his Poliwhirl, he freezes Surge and Electabuzz in place right on the ground. They weren't even able to move anywhere. So using this moment, he escapes, and Surge starts using Magnemites and Magnetons to survey the ship. As he's trying to get out, he's ambushed again. This time by a magneton. It starts doing the supersonic, and it puts the stars in Red's eyes this time. So he get all confused, and while he's trying to regain himself, that's when Red is put into a barrier by the Magnetite and Magnamon, the Magnetons and Mites. And so puts him in a barrier, and then he throws that polar whirl overboard. Oh my gosh, the whole situation just started to sink in. Well, anyways, afterward, he decides to teach Red a lesson. And so, surrounding him, he shocks Red and then throws him overboard. So, right when everything started to look like it at worst, that's when a brand new Pokemon leaps out of the water and saves Red. It's a Poliwrath. That boy's Poliwhirl evolved in the most desperate of circumstances. With this newfound strength, Poliwhirl defeats Electabuzz and throws him and Surge off the boat with a seismic toss. That day has been saved, and all the missing Pokemon, they return to their trainers. Scene.
Oh shit, I forgot to record.
No!
Not just fucking with you. As you were reading it, I was like, I'm gonna fuck with him and just tell him I forgot to record.
I have been practicing this like for the better part of the day. I was like, oh my gosh, how am I gonna do this?
No, I love how I only understood like half of what you said. I think like us growing up in Texas really paid off for this one.
Oh yeah, no, like for the how many colorful people we've talked to in our lifetime. Yeah.
yeah. It's at one point, did you say Magnamon? I was like,
no, yeah, I literally was like, yeah, I think Bill would mix up his words a little bit and do a Magnamon.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. No, that was good. That was really good. All right, listeners. So that was Daramu's very first voiceover recap. Pretty good.
Don't get used to
him. Too bad Fleur couldn't witness that. That was hilarious. All right, so we're moving on to the storyboard, and this is also your very first storyboard. So you actually have a pretty simple one.
Yeah, and like I said, I really like this one a lot. So, okay, so starting off, we see these horns. Like very first panel, you see these horns sounding off that they're getting ready to be a part of a Pokemon triathlon type thing. They don't really say at the beginning, but you find out that it's sponsored by the cycling, Miracle Cycling sponsorships this race. So yeah, they're getting ready to do a race going through routes 11 and 12. So you have an announcer, he's like very energetic about it. He kind of shows them what the layout's going to be. And then he kind of has like a mischievous face on panel number 5. Panel number 5, just letting them know it's like, hey, there's going to be some shady things that happen. Doesn't really say it outright, but you know, just the way he's got his face kind of like not menacingly, but mischievously, like you could tell something's about to come up. Right after that, you have all the cyclists lined up. All of them have very determined faces. Red specifically, like zoom in, he's got like his childlike wonder and like that, determination for what he's about to start going through. So the race starts. Title of this one is Wake Up Your Snorlax. So Red is huffing along. He's doing his best. It's very obvious that his bike is not up to par with everyone else's. He literally states like, maybe I shouldn't have borrowed the bike from the Pokemon fan club because, I doubt he would be much of a biker. But yeah, this bike is definitely not up to par with everyone else. So as he's going along,
real quick. Do you think that maybe the chairman told Red, like, would you follow me to the back of my truck? I have a bike for you. That's probably how he got it. Sorry, keep going.
So as we're riding along, we notice that Red is really far behind all the other trainers. But it doesn't matter too much because they come up to one bridge and everyone is going across this bridge literally one at a time. This confuses Red, and he asks, like, well, why are we going one at a time? And another one of the cyclists, they point to the water, and you see 3 tentacruel. So obviously, like, it's a very perilous bridge, and everyone is trying to be as cautious as they can. So at this point, that's when Red realized, like, oh, wow, this isn't fair. I didn't realize that we're going to be, having to fight other things. So that's when another one kind of chimes in and is like, oh, so you've never been in a Pokemon race. So it's literally a Pokemon obstacle course. And afterward, you can kind of see him almost like, good luck, as he like hops onto a Slowpoke and starts riding down the river. So first thing that the first thing that Red does is he pulls out his Poliwrath and uses Ice Beam. So that way he can just hop on the water and ride across. So he literally made his own little ice bridge. Right after that, you see him giving a high five to Poliwrath. So also shout out to Poliwrath because he's been through a lot lately. So after he found a creative way to get across, he didn't have to wait in the line to get across the bridge. He's going through, and he realizes that he's gained a lot of ground just by that one thing. So next thing he comes up to is a forest. So he realizes that the forest, there's literally 2 different paths. Everybody else is going around it, and he's, trying to make that decision whether or not he wants to go through or not. And as he's getting ready to go through, he sees another trainer. It looks like a bug catcher. They've got their little bug net and everything. And he realizes, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to go through. And the bug trainer literally tells him, like, oh, well, you might want to have some spray, because he starts spraying and lets him know that the forest is infested with bugs. Right below that, you see the bug trainer walking into the forest with his bike, and he has the cutest little Scyther. Like, this is probably the most adorable Scyther panel I've ever seen, because he looks so chibi. I love it.
He kind of looks like did you ever watch the Metabots cartoon series?
Yes.
That's kind of what it reminded me of. Like kind of like the animation. It's a very, I mean, I know that the characters in this one are very chibi like, but that Scyther to me looks like a Metabot, like a Pokemon, what do you call it, hybrid.
So. Yeah, it was really cute, and like compared to some of the other Pokemon that we've seen, like Rhydon, who looks menacingly, like this one, just seeing it chibi, like, and Scyther is normally not chibi, so it was cute to see.
I agree.
Afterward, you see Red busting through the forest. He's got his Pikachu on his back. He uses electric attack that electrifies a Butterfree, a Venonat, a Venomoth, and they all got X's on their eyes. They start falling to the ground. As he's, making his way through the forest, he has Bulbasaur on the front 2 front 2 handles of the bike, using Razor Leaf to get through the forest as quickly as he can. He realizes he's making a lot of headway. There's literally panels of the trees being cut in half. You see like major animation lines just showing that he is literally busting through this forest. So because he's busting through this forest, next panel has a honeycomb or a beehive literally land on Bulbasaur's head. So we realize this is a Beedrill's hive. So right after that, there's literally a swarm of Beedrills chasing Red, which I guess would only help him with his time. Like, that would definitely make him ride a lot faster. He does get stung a little bit. You see him have like little sting marks and little patch on his head. Definitely got beat up a little bit. He has to like start walking with his bike. He realizes it took a major toll on him. Even Pikachu's got a little bit of like sting marks on his face also, but he said that the shortcut is it did pay off, and so he did make a lot of headway over the other cyclists. After that, they realize they're on the last leg of the race. He's got Poliwrath, Bulbasaur, and Pikachu, and he's just cheering them on, and realizes that they're doing really good right now. That's when it pans over to the announcer, and he's pretty much giving a play-by-play, so letting them know that they're on the last leg of the race. They have a big jumbo screen that has Red on it, just kind of saying like where he's at. And then that's when they reveal like what the prize will be. So yeah, whoever ends up winning this race, they're going to get the whole bunch of Pokemon items, and then along with that, also $10,000 prize money. So that's definitely why everyone's trying their hardest on this. As they're going through, he comes up to one point on Route 12 that's being blocked. And so the first panel, you just see a giant black blob. It doesn't actually look like anything. It literally just looks like a blob. He starts asking like the other trainers who are there why they're not going around. And then yes, when they pan up above it, and that's when you can see the full Snorlax. They pretty much go over, it's like he's, Snorlax are known to sleep forever. So, they're trying to figure out the best way to get around. First thing Red tries is he sends out his Poliwrath, and it literally, as it's leaping at it, bounces right off Snorlax. You see a little plong animation. You see Poliwrath like kind of confused, has all this newfound strength and literally just bounces right off. Tries it again, plongs off again. And so that's when the other two trainers, they kind of look at him like, you idiot, you think we didn't try that? And so yeah, the Snorlax literally just sleeps right through it. Even the Pokedex, like, yeah, it sleeps right through it. So that's when they realize the only thing that will wake up Snorlax is food. So that's when Red gets his idea. It's like, okay, well, here goes nothing. You see Snorlax eyes kind of start to wake up, and that's when the panel below it, that's when you realize what Red has done. He's used the beehive and put honey all over the Bulbasaur, and he reassures Bulbasaur because he's kind of giving him side eyes, like, don't worry, I'm gonna make sure you're okay. But right below that, that's when the Snorlax starts to wake up. As it starts to wake up, it kind of has to roll up and look over its stomach so that way it can see Red. And as he's looking at him, he sees that Red is kind of taunting him. He's like, oh, can't you smell this Beedrill honey? And then in the next panel, that's when you see Snorlax, and he's got like little saliva marks on his mouth. It's actually kind of cute. But after that, like, it's pretty obvious what happens. So you pan over, you see the finish line, and you can see like the crowd of people waiting for the contestants to start rolling in. And that's when the announcer's like, here they come, they're on their way. And you see him like with anticipation in his eyes. He's like kind of excited, kind of confused, and then he realized like, wait, that's not a bike. And you see all this dust and clouds in the background, because you can't really see what's causing it, but you can see this huge commotion that's being stirred up. And so the next thing you see is Red pedaling as fast as he can as he's being chased down by a Snorlax. It even has like, again, it's got like major animation lines. You could see it literally says Doom right above the Snorlax. Like, it is chasing Red down. The next panel you see is Snorlax literally tripping just in front of the finish line. So of course we're assuming Red got through first. He can't believe it. He won the prize money. His Pokemon are really happy. And in the last one, you see Snorlax eating mountains of food because he had to use all of his prize money to feed the Snorlax, which we can assume is on his team now. So
yeah, so very good. So for all of our listeners, that was Daramu's very first ever episode walkthrough for the storyboard, and you did pretty good.
Thank you.
Yeah, so okay.
Also nervous.
It's funny because when I go back and listen to the very first like 2 episodes, I can tell that I was nervous. I can tell I was like, oh, I can just tell. But like by the 4th time I did, I was like, oh, this is actually, it just comes natural to me now. But no, you did pretty good. The pacing was great. So I really don't have anything negative to say about it. So before we start the open discussions, was there anything in particular that you wanted to point out? Because I have 3 discussion topics. Did you have any for yourself?
Okay, so yeah, I guess my first one would be Route 11 and 12. I kind of zoomed in because there was one panel that had Route 11 and 12 like shown out because it was showing you the route that they were going to take.
Right.
And Route 11 and 12 are almost panel for panel completely accurate to how they were in the game. Route 12 was a little bit shaky up at the top, but aside from that, that was the exact model they went with for the game. So yeah. I thought that was pretty cool. Aside from that, The other thing is the Snorlax running. I wanted to point that out specifically because the way he was running, you don't see anything like that in the game until Sun and Moon with his Z move, because he got his own personalized Z move called Pulverizing Pancake. And it's this exact animation. It shows him like booking it. He does a giant leap into the air and then flattens whatever Pokemon's on the other side. So
okay, so when he's running, okay, I'm glad that you brought that up because I didn't really think he was running based on the animation. Because if you go to the last page, really, where he's like dead on behind Red on the bike, if you look at the animation on Snorlax, I thought he was rolling.
oh, okay.
That's what I thought. But now that you're explaining the Z move, that does make sense because I was like, oh, I think the rolling was just what I interpreted. But I think the Z move that you're describing is the correct animation for how he's supposed to be running behind him.
Yeah, because that's the exact way that they do it in the game. Like Pulverizing Pancake, it looks terrifying. And it
Yeah.
actually, it even starts off with him asleep. And you see like these little stars in his eyes as he's waking up. It's almost this exact panel. Like this entire scene on how they woke up Snorlax is almost the entire Z move. So it was pretty cool. Like I really like. I think that's why this one was very fun for me.
Yeah.
Along with that, like the Pokemon that, or the way he was getting through the race. I thought that was really fun. But specifically the Snorlax, like when I saw and I read through this, like it was almost like scene for scene everything you would see with that Pulverizing Pancake animation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And as a part of my discussion topics, one of the first one I had was actually let's talk about these race obstacles and what were your favorites. So out of the obstacles, my personal favorite was actually the very first one when they had to get over that like trope of a rope bridge that we always see in cartoons because it's all
yeah,
that real shaky bridge. It's got those like wooden panels that are broken or the ones that are like that just right when the character gets there. What a coincidence. It just fall like I think it just perfectly falls when they walk up to it. So I just like the fact that Red was like, oh fuck this. So he sends out a Pokemon to use the Ice Beam. So what I really enjoyed about this one is that Red used his intellect for a lot of the obstacles. It was what I really enjoyed about it. I like also when he's going through the forest because we see a Venonat and we see a Butterfree and a Venomoth. And we have had this recurring argument on the podcast about this, or not argument, but like a current agreement that there was a possible switch there with those two
yeah.
Pokemon. And it just makes me wonder if like that particular panel was a clue to that. I did think the obstacles were very clever. I really enjoyed that part of it. I think if this would have been like an actual episode, because it's the manga and it's a lot shorter and condensed, they can only give us so much. And what I noticed was that the point of all the obstacles, because really there were 4 obstacles, the point of every obstacle was to give all 3 of his Pokemon their moment. And then the last one was to give Red his moment. So I like how all 4 obstacles were cleverly placed to give each one of the 4 members of this group their shining moment, their moment of to like really go out there. And that's what I liked about it. But if this would have been a cartoon series, I would have loved to have seen all kinds of obstacles just thrown in there, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
With the obstacles specifically, there were, Venonats, Beedrills, Venomoths, Butterfree, Tentacruel. One thing I did want to point out is in the game, none of those Pokemon are on either of these routes.
yeah.
It's only Ekans, Spearow, and Drowsy, Sandshrew, Spearow, and Drowsy, and that was for the original Red and Blue. And then for Yellow, that's when you got Pidgey, Rattata, Drowsy, Pidgeotto, and Raticate. So, and then only in the water, the only thing in the water was always going to be Magikarp and Poliwags and Goldeen's. So Shelder and Krabby, those were going to be on Route 12, and then Tentacools were on Pokemon Yellow, and Horsey was also. So it was kind of like if they would have added more of those, like going to what you were saying with the obstacles, if you added like any of these to that situation, it would have been a lot of stuff that they could have done with it, which I would have also enjoyed.
So let's talk about that, because that's actually part of my second discussion topic.
Okay. Sorry.
What would no, I was gonna say, what would have been some obstacles that you would have liked if they would have added?
Well, specifically with Drowsy, because Drowsy like literally just puts people to sleep and eats their dreams. So that would have been a fun obstacle, is if like you had these bike riders that are riding and then they don't know why they're falling asleep and then they just fall over on the side of the road. So I think Ash's way of getting around, or I'm sorry, Red's way of getting around that would have been if he had his Pikachu on his back and he decides to shock himself awake. Like it could have been like fun little things like that.
Comedic.
Huh?
A little more comedic, yeah.
Yeah. Ekans, Ekans are usually pretty territorial. So, if they would have had to like in the forest have areas where there was just like an Ekans infestation, like kind of like that, it would have been fun to see how we've gotten through that. Would he have just used Bulbasaur and just tried to like leap over them the best he can? Would he try and fight through them? Even with Sandshrews, like if Sandshrews were just digging up holes in the ground and
I have a similar one.
Okay, so those are things I think would have been fun.
I think it would have been cool had there been like sort of like an area where it's just dirt and you see a bunch of like Diglett and Dugtrio just like pop up randomly.
Yeah, that would have been cute.
They could like throw you off your balance, or the holes themselves could like make you fall in there. Another funny one that I would have done is I would have had like a really powerful rare Pokemon appear, like a Mew or something, and like just fly by. So if you followed it, you would realize it's actually a fake Pokemon set up there to make vulnerable trainers follow it.
That would have been fun.
Like, that would have been hilarious. Like, oh, fuck this, Ray. There's a Mew over there. Damn it, it's fake. Like, that would have been like a real troll moment. I also thought it would have been cool if like when they go to the forest, if we would have seen spider webs. Now, I know that we don't have any spider Pokemon in Generation 1, but Caterpie uses that string attack, right?
Yeah, it's got string shot.
String shot, yes.
So does Weedle, I believe.
Yeah.
I believe it. Yeah, so yeah, that would have been a good little touch if they would have had something like that.
Like, honestly, I mean, and to the listeners, honestly, for the listeners, it's for like this kind of interaction, it's better to check out our YouTube channel. You could just comment on there. Let us know what cool obstacles you guys would have really enjoyed for this episode. What obstacles with Generation 1 Pokemon would have really been fun to watch the characters have to go through and like figure out a way to overcome it. Because like I'm telling you, this one episode is one that you really don't need to know anything about Pokemon. You could just sit back and enjoy it for what it is. There is one particular obstacle that I like how it was meant to emphasize Red's intellect, but at the same time, it was contradicting to the chapter itself. So, you know how we've talked about plot armor?
Yeah.
Okay. So, is there such thing as plot disarmor?
I need you to explain.
All right, sweetheart. How did Red get through the tentacruel infested lake?
Yeah, so as far as that goes, I was like, okay, whatever. He made an ice bridge, so I'm.
So why did he not do that when he got to where Snorlax is blocking the road?
Yeah, I mean.
So is there such thing as plot disarmor? Because I was like, Red, come on.
Well, in that same scene, also, you literally had, what was it? I think there was a swimmer, and the swimmer's like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to get around this. Like, just swim.
So are we going to coin phrase the term plot disarmor now? Because I think it's pretty appropriate for this one in a sense.
Yeah, like I think he just had a momentary brain fart because he's like, well, Poliwrath can't do it, so I guess I must smother some honey on my Bulbasaur and hope for the best.
I am going to basically give this Snorlax a honey smothered salad, because that's what he was doing. Like the bulb on the back, it's a plant. So he's
Yeah.
offering him a meal. And I'm just like, so when you were reading through it and you said that Snorlax's face is kind of cute, I'm like, cannibalism.
Oh no, like I like Snorlax a lot. I got a little one, or not little one, like behind me. It's one of those like life-size Snorlaxes that you could just like lay on. So
Yeah, I saw it on your TikTok.
yeah, like Snorlax is one of my favorites. So oh no, the that was an inflatable one. This one is actually like a beanbag Snorlax.
I've seen it, PokemonCenter.com, right?
Yeah.
You guys, you have got to follow us on our TikTok. We promote the hell out of PokemonCenter.com, and we have a lot of Pokemon memorabilia. And I have that same mug, by the way. Um, so for the listeners on our podcast, he has the Gengar mug, and I have the exact same one. But yeah, I just felt like I loved the way he was getting through these, but in that moment, I was like, "Come on, Red! Like
Yeah.
you literally got through a similar obstacle using the same like issue, the water. You could do the same method here, and you're good to go. Like, why are you underthinking it?"
Yeah. I just with how comedic this one was, like this whole chapter, I didn't even see it as a problem because like his forest, it's like he had some ups and downs in the forest. It was cool watching him get through it, but it was also funny watching him get stung up. He's like, "Oh, that sucked."
Oh my
Like,
god! Oh my god! Let's
yeah.
talk about that stung. Okay, have you ever? I'm sure you have. Did you watch the first Hunger Games movie?
Yes.
The scene like, where Katniss is like asleep on the tree because there's a group of kids that are waiting below for her to
Yeah.
come down, and she sees like this nest of some kind of a wasp, yellow jacket hybrid insect,
Yeah.
and she cuts it down, and like the thing falls down, and the kids get stung. I got really terrifying flashbacks of that scene when I saw this panel of like the Beedrill behind him,
Yeah.
because in like our universe, you know, our universe, the human world, I guess, a bumblebee is a minor inconvenience that we really don't want to fuck with. Can you imagine how terrifying it must be to be chased by these gigantic Beedrills?
Yeah. No, like Beedrills are terrifying.
They
So
scared me. Yeah, like if we were, we should have a special episode like just talking about Pokemon shit and just talk about like terrifying Pokemon, because Beedrill is one that I would not want to like ever interact with if it
yeah,
were real.
like anything that's like super territorial or aggressive, like Fearos, like any of those, I just would not want to fuck with.
Yeah, it was a terrifying thing, but like just the look on his face when he's like all like what, swollen, bumped up or whatever.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just came back from vacation. I was on a cruise, and I came back with like horrible sunburn, which if the followers, you can tell right away because we have some pictures from a party we went to last night promoting the podcast, and like I am tanned up. My tan's not gone, but my skin was peeling for several days and it hurt. And just seeing Red's face here was like, ouch, I've been there. I know how that feels. And it's just, I mean, I get it. He was able to cut through the little pathway, but like, was it really worth it, Red? Like, that looks really painful.
I mean, he technically did win because of it.
I
So,
mean, yes.
so
I'm not denying that. Yeah,
it's
he did.
the no pain, no gain mentality, I guess.
God, but it's just, I don't know. I
At what
mean,
cost?
I know I mean, it's funny. It's funny. I love, and that one part that I really did like is the part where he sends his Poliwrath to attack the Snorlax, and we get those two trainers saying like, "You idiot! You don't think we thought of that?" Because Red often does the foolish thing, and he's rewarded for it.
Yeah.
In this one, he does the foolish thing, and they're like, "You're a dumbass." Like they just call him out for it. So I was glad to like finally someone tells him how stupid he really is. Like that's how I am when I watch TV shows or movies. I will love the character, but I will love to watch them fail. And it's like I know you don't watch it, but I was a huge Gossip Girl fan. And one of the characters, Jenny Humphrey, people hated her in season 3 because she became a total bitch. but it like backfired on her so ugly. And the whole time I was like, yes, I love you. And I love watching you get what you deserve, but you're still my favorite. So it's just a funny thing. I don't know. I just love that. I'm realistic when it comes to being a fan. I like it when they win. I love it when they get their asses handed to them. And Red got his ass handed to him in that one. The last discussion topic I had is that Snorlax is now part of Red's main team. Now, they don't address it in this one. They kind of just like allude to it. But no, Snorlax is officially part of his team. So this really does make Snorlax one of the original 6 Pokemon. So me personally, and I don't even EV train or IV train or whatever, but I do love battling with Snorlax. And I wish I did EV train simply because I have a feeling that Snorlax is actually good if you EV train.
Yeah, no, Snorlax, when Sword and Shield came out, Snorlax was instantly one of the top tier Pokemon for like the first
Really?
few seasons. Yeah, it was him and Lapras. They like both, like as soon as Lapras was released, that's when or the Gmax Lapras, that's when Lapras took that spot. But yeah, they because they kind of did Gmaxes in waves, so like certain ones of them got released later. So
Yeah, I remember.
yeah, so Snorlax is, and even before this, like previous games, there's always been like belly drum Snorlax. There's always been leftover recite or the he can eat a berry, and then I think he can use recycle. I used to have a rest, sleep, talk Snorlax. So there's always been combinations that you can do with Snorlax that have always been competitively viable. I think the one that most people like to use and abuse is belly drum Snorlax, just because he gets to half HP, he eats a berry, he gets a good deal of his health back, and he just starts wrecking. So
I battled a friend of mine like years ago, and this was, I want to say it was probably Fire Red and Leaf Green when we battled.
mm-hmm.
So I remember that when I battled him with Snorlax, he looked at me and he was like, "Why are you using Snorlax?" And I was like, "Oh, I just like using Snorlax." So we were battling. My HP was low. I used Rest. Then I used Yawn. Then I used Snore. And he was just like, "What the fuck?" So like I knocked out like half of his team with just my Snorlax. And he was like, "I did not snore." He goes, "I did not know Snorlax was that good." And I'm like, and I told him, I said, and I don't even EV train. So imagine if I did.
He
My
legitimately
Snorlax would be
slept on him.
impossible. Yeah, like he was legitimately shocked. Like, I did not know Snorlax was that good. And I'm like, I figured it out on my own, so
Yeah.
he was pretty good with me. So seeing that, because in the anime, Ash does get a Snorlax, but one, it's not in his original 6, and 2, it's not even in the first season. It's like in the Orange Islands, which is like an extension of the first region.
Yeah.
But in this one, I just love that already he's in the main team. So for me, when I was first reading these, that was a huge plus because I love Snorlax.
Yeah. Snorlax has always been one of my favorites, and then I like in the game how Red, in the game, after Pokemon Yellow, every time you encounter him, he's always got like staple Pokemon. So like Snorlax is one of those staples that you always see him using.
Yeah, yeah. So like it's funny because like my furries, my furries attractions are like anywhere between a Machoke and a Snorlax. If I saw a beefy guy cosplaying as like a sexy Snorlax with a harness, but this guy had like a beer belly gut and like a chusky chest, I'd be like, oh god, can I can you introduce me to him, please? So, but if like a muscular guy walked in dressed up in like Andrew Christian underwear that are black as a Machoke, I'd still be like, okay, I like them both. I go for muscles and I go for fat. I love both.
Let me see. I'm gonna send you an image.
Oh, please.
Here in a bit, but it's a Mega Evolution Snorlax that looks really funny.
Are you sending it to the chat room or me individually?
I'll send it to the chat room.
All right, cool. I mean, Fleur will be like, I wonder what this is all about.
Yeah. But
Oh, poor Fleur. She has to deal with two gay guys on this podcast like every week. While you're sending it, because we've already seen or we've already confirmed what 4 of his Pokemon are. If you had to make like a guess, who would you think the remaining 2 would possibly be?
so educated guess, I would say one's going to be a Lapras for sure.
A Lapras? Okay.
Yes. Because that's another one that Red uses canonically throughout the games.
I just got the image. Yeah, if a guy showed up wearing that, I would probably like just go up to him and say, "Would you like a drink? Would you want to join me for a little bit, please?" Yeah, that's so basically it's like this overly dramatic, like real beefy looking Snorlax. Very chubby, but like just very grizzly. It's just missing a harness. That's all it is. But I love that. I love it a lot. Oh God. I love beefcakes and bears. I don't know what it is. I just do. And I think that's why I grew my beard, because ever since I grew my beard, those are the guys that like I attract now. So yay. Aside from Lapras, what will be the other one that you think he'll have?
Oh, okay. So let's see. He's got Bulbasaur. He's got Poliwrath, Pikachu, Snorlax. I would say Lapras, and then he's already got a water type. He's got. I'd say probably a fire type, probably a Charmander somewhere along the way, because that's like he usually has one of each of the starters: Pikachu, Snorlax, and Lapras.
But they wouldn't give him Charmander because the rival has it.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
The 2 Pokemon he would not ever get are Charmander and Squirtle.
Then I would say the last one would probably be an Eevee evolution. So like he'll get an
evolution?
Eevee, and then that would probably be like its own chapter. Is
Okay.
Eevee evolving? It'd be my guess. And then that would be my educated way of tying it into Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee.
Oh, okay. Okay. It's
Me
kind of
not knowing anything about this the manga, like that's where my mind would go.
it's kind of hard for me going back in time, because like I even told you at one point I played Pokemon Fire Red using Red's exact team from the mangas. So it's really hard for me to like remember who I thought his Pokemon were going to be. I remember hoping he would get Jigglypuff, but thinking that more than likely the girl trainer was going to get Jigglypuff.
Okay.
And I remember hoping that he would get an Eevee, but more than likely the rival would get Eevee. So I remember like wanting those 2. I really want Jigglypuff and Eevee, but more than likely it's gonna go to the other 2. When I was reading these for the first time, the one that I did think he was going to have on his team was actually a Clefairy.
Okay. And based off of what we know about Clefairy, that would have made sense.
Yeah, I dead ass thought like, okay, more than likely he's gonna get a Clefairy, and more than likely it's gonna be his last one, because it's gonna be kind of like a full circle kind of thing. So I really did think that he was gonna get a Clefairy, and then the 6th, I guess like the 5th spot Pokemon that I thought he was gonna get, I did consider him getting a Lapras for a moment. The only reason that I kind of like backtracked on Lapras is because he already had a Poliwrath. And I wondered, are they going to give him 2 water types? But then I was like, well, Ash had Squirtle and Lapras.
Yeah.
So it's not too crazy. And also keep in mind, Clefairy was a normal at the time. So I was like, well, Clefairy, Snorlax, So I ended up just like going with Lapras too. I honestly thought he was going to get Lapras and Clefairy. Those were my 2 choices for him.
Yeah. Lapras is one of those that's like always iconic also.
I love Lapras.
It's Pokedex information, like people resonate with its Pokedex information. They always like it's one of those that's always been competitively viable. Like Lapras is, and it's a beautiful design. Like
oh my god, yes.
Yeah, like if you talk about a Pokemon's aesthetics, like Lapras has always been one of those that fans just love because it's beautiful. It was one of their well thought out Pokemon for sure.
I've always wanted a Lapras pre-evolution. I just have this idea of like this just adorable Plesiosaurus baby, and I'm like, if they ever want to give it a pre-evolution, like just please make it cute. I just love it. Like, please, I love Lapras. So my two Pokemon ideas were Lapras and Clefairy, with the rival getting Eevee and the girl getting Jigglypuff, and your two were an Evolution and Lapras. Okay, so interesting. Did you have any other discussion topics for this one?
That's what I was checking real quick. I don't think I did. Yeah, because I said it in the when I was doing the walkthrough of the chapter. The only other thing I was going to bring up is the Scyther's look, which again, that was the first time that you ever see like a chibi Scyther, because normally Scyther is always made to be like sleek and menacing. So yeah, I think that was it.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right, cool. So that concludes our discussion. Moving on to standout moments. So my standout moment is actually when Red uses Poliwrath's ice beam to create the path along the road, simply because it's a great example of Red's intellect, his intuition. And like I said, this whole episode is pretty much just Red using his intuition repeatedly. And the reason why I like that so much is because it reminded me of the episode. I know you didn't really watch the cartoon series, but there's in the Orange Islands when Ash has to collect like the 4 badges. He has to race against his trainer who has Blastoise. And they're racing on the ocean. And the only reason that Ash wins is because he makes Lapras use an ice beam. So instead of swimming across the ocean, Lapras slides across the ocean and wins the race.
Okay.
And it reminded me of that. And I was like, oh, I like that. I wonder if that's like a reference to the anime, or I wonder if the anime was referencing this. So I love that completely. So that was my standout moment for this one. What was your standout moment?
I would say my standout moment was the panel right after Red is taunting Snorlax, like, "Oh, this Bulbasaur smells like Beedrill honey." That scene where you see the action lines, you see Snorlax like say lax right above him. He's got the little drool marks on his mouth. That's my standout moment, because that's when in my brain it clicked that this was all part of his Z move that you see in Sun and Moon. Because
Okay.
like even that scene, the first thing Snorlax does is like he pops his head up and he has like his little menacing eyes, and then he gets up and just runs. So it was the first thing that made it click that that's what this was.
See, the cool thing about the manga books, you can like go back and read them literally at any time, and you'll catch references from like the current generations. Because the Z move, that's a Generation 7 thing, right?
Yeah, Z moves were Sun and Moon, and
Yeah, Generation 7. So it's just so cool that something all the way from to Generation 7 was referenced in Generation 1. And that's why I read these books at least like once a year, because I'll catch things that I'll say, oh wow, that's from like the current generations. Like that's a clever little hidden thing they did in there.
yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we're moving on to that scene. Do you think that scene was in this one?
This one was very lighthearted. I don't think that scene was in this one.
Yeah. And honestly, that's why when Fleur wasn't available, I was like, oh, it's fine, because that scene is not in this one. I really want you both to be in that one because I want to really discuss that scene. We'll just have to see whenever that happens. So let's move on to trivia. So for trivia, I have a couple of things. The first one is the race is sponsored by Miracle Cycle, which is located in Cerulean City in Generation 1 and in Goldenrod City in Generation 2. So for anyone who's ever played the games, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the area where you get your bike from. So I like how in the manga series, now this trivia, I didn't fact check it, but apparently somewhere in the panels, they show that that's the sponsorship. But yeah, that's kind of what I found on that. Now let me look back on the first one, see if it shows anywhere. No, I don't see it.
It's the first thing that the announcer says, but I don't see any. I'm going through and checking if I see like any signage in the
Oh,
background.
he does. He says our thanks to Miracle Cycle for sponsoring this race. Yes, he sure does. It's on the second panel.
Yeah.
So, okay, so there you go. So for all of our listeners, they actually reference the locations in the video game. I love how that's an example of meta, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I still have a hard time understanding what that word means, but that's so meta. I correctly used the word meta. Yay.
Oh boy, I'm acting like all the kids now.
Hey, that was kind of sus what you just said.
Mm.
I will never use that expression again, sus, I swear. All right. The next one I have for trivia is trainers are allowed to use Pokemon in the race. This is a similar plot to the anime episode, The Flame Pokemon-a-thon, where Ash uses a Ponyta to take part in a race where Pokemon were used to aid the racer to get through obstacles. Now, did you watch that episode?
I vaguely remember that one because there was like, I believe there was a Taurus. I think some guy was riding on an electrode, like he was literally just like rolling down.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
vaguely remember that episode.
I always felt bad for that. The funniest part is when they're going downhill. The electrode's like rolling like really fast. And the guys, it's just so hilarious. It's like physical comedy. It's also the one where Pikachu's riding on Squirtle.
Yeah.
And I'm like, isn't this like a trainer race? I don't think that counts. But yeah, it's kind of a reference. It's similar to that one. But yeah, that Electro just always it was just funny to me. I remember that. I remember that very well. It was just like stupid funny. Now that episode actually spawned a meme that still like makes my blood boil a little bit.
Okay.
Have you seen that meme where like it's a screenshot of that episode and it has it has Ash riding on Ponyta and the quotation reads like, why does the Ponyta's fire not affect Ash?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sitting there and I'm just like, sweetheart, it's literally explained in the episode. Whoever posted this, you're not funny, you're not clever, you're not this like meme genius. It's literally explained in the episode, and all you're doing is encouraging ignorance. Now, I will
So
say that hang on. I'll say that the punchline is funny when they say that because Ash is Ash, but I'm just like, it's explained in the episode. It's the equivalent to asking the Harry Potter question, being like, it's explained in the books. Just read it. Like, you'll get the answer. What were you gonna say?
oh no, I was gonna say the Ash is Ash part. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, like the punchline. The punchline is funny, but I've seen people post it without the punchline, and I'm just like, just watch the episode. Like,
Yeah.
it's explained.
I remember them talking about that a lot in that episode also. So
yeah, it was like a huge plot point.
yeah.
It was
They
explained
definitely
early
drove
on.
that home. Like they talked about that for a bit.
Yeah. I've seen, oh my God, the other day I saw this one meme. It made me so angry. And I was like, if this is making me this angry, I need to call my therapist and just like discuss my anger issues because it really pissed me off. It was somebody Google searched, why does Team Rocket Meowths talk?
Yeah.
And like the answer said, because Meowth learned to talk to impress a female Meowth or something, only to get its heart broken. And like I saw all the reactions, and there were like the shocked reactions and the heartbreaks. And I was just reading this like, that's literally a whole episode.
Yeah.
Like, if you watch the cartoon series, that's a whole episode. Like we're gonna pass along storylines now as like trivia. If that's the case, why don't we just like why not just put on a separate meme? Ash has Pikachu because he overslept and couldn't choose one of the original 3 starters. Are we really passing up episode storylines as like trivia memes now? Because if that's what we're doing, you're calling me really old.
Yeah, like there's, I don't know. I don't get mad about those kind of things. Like there's a distinct reason why I love and hate the Pokemon fan base. They actively make me angry, so I just stay away from them.
Well, I just felt like if it was a legitimate trivia, I would have been like, oh, that's cool. But if it's something that's actually explained in the show, I'm like, that's not cool. You're just taking credit for something that people are too lazy to do themselves.
Yeah, no, I could literally have like a whole day of just going over my grievances with the Pokemon community. But again, there's a distinct reason why I don't really interact with the Pokemon community.
I'm with you on that one. We're on the same page with you. The third part of trivia that I have is that in the English version of the books, Red states that he borrowed a bike from the Pokemon fan club chairman. In the original Japanese version of the books, Red mentions that he exchanged a bike voucher given to him by the Pokemon fan club chairman, which is a direct plot line from the video games. Now, anyone who's ever played the video games already knew this, which is when I first read this and Red states that he borrowed a bike from the chairman, I remember thinking, that can't be right. He should have given you a bike voucher, but I'll just go with it. So when I read that trivia, I was like, oh, that does make more sense because that's what happens in the games.
Yeah.
And then the last piece of trivia that I have is that the area where Snorlax is asleep is directly the same location where he is asleep in the video games on Route 12. Now, in the video games, there are 2 Snorlaxes, right?
Yes.
There's one on Route 12 and there's one on...
Oh, I don't know it offhand. I'd have to look it up.
It's the bike route.
Yeah. I would have to look it up. I don't know it offhand.
Yeah, so that's another one. And yeah. Now, what I do like is that aside from Red's plot disarmor of not using his Poliwrath to just create another ice pathway, I like that it actually showed a Snorlax as seen from above. It showed why they couldn't like walk around it to get over the bridge. Like it actually overlaps the areas. So I was like, oh, okay. So there is some logic to this. Okay.
Yeah. Like Snorlax is massive. So yeah, no, I really appreciate that scene because it does a great job of depicting how massive Snorlax actually is.
Yeah. I really enjoyed that one. But yeah, so that's pretty much for the trivia. So now we're going on to predictions and hopeful storylines. Now, for me, this episode to me was the time. I'm sorry. This episode to me was like the time where he saves Bill from the Furo. Hang on, I gotta reread this. Give me a second. Oh, here we go. This episode to me was like the one where he saves Bill from the Furo. I love it so much because it was just a fun episode. Not funny, not heavy, just a fun one you could randomly read and enjoy. I was curious as to if they were going to show the second Snorlax sleeping that appears in the video game. So at the time, I was wondering, like, are they going to show the other Snorlax? Is that going to be a plot point? But part of me was also like, they're probably not. They're not going to do a whole another Snorlax. The only reason that I did think that they were is simply because we haven't reached the Lavender Town storyline.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe they're going to introduce Lavender Town, the Pokeflute, and with that, we're going to see him like awaken the second Snorlax. But that was just, I didn't know what's going to happen, but that was what I thought. What do you think is going to happen next? Or like, what do you hope will happen next?
So what I was hoping, or what I'm hoping for the next one is, well, because we are at the end of Route 12 by the end of this one, I'm hoping that they jump straight into the Lavender Town arc. they're like kind of like you said, the Mr. Fuji, the Poke Flute. There's a lot of different things that happen in Lavender Town. You have the Cubone Marowak incident. A lot of Team Rocket lore happens in Lavender Town, so I'm really excited to see how the manga does Lavender Town. Like that's
Yeah.
where I think we're going next.
So you're hoping that we're going to Lavender Town next?
Yes.
Well, let's see what happens. So before I send you the next clue, let's discuss last week's clue, which is when I sent you the picture of Trainer Red riding a bike.
Okay.
Was that clue accurate to what the episode was about?
Oh, 100%.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So now I'm sending you a clue as to what our next episode is about in the group chat.
So yeah, I'm right. It's the Lavender Town.
Yeah.
This is a sick image, by the way.
I love this image. Oh my God. So for our listeners, basically it's like, how can I even describe this?
It's got the Pokemon Tower in the middle, and it's got two Ghastlies kind of like creating this like smoke pattern that is doing this weird outline of Gengar's eyes behind the tower with this smoke, and then right below it, right where Lavender Town is in the middle, you have like a line of Cubone skulls. So it's pretty wild.
This would make a sick tattoo if someone had that.
It'd be pretty badass.
And that would be an expensive ass tattoo as well. I can argue like what, $800 for like that to be done well. So yeah, and also what I like about the clue that I'm giving you, all I'm saying is Lavender Town. I'm not really giving you any storyline clues because I really want you guys to enjoy Lavender Town. It's honestly one of my favorite storylines from the first book, and it is a fan favorite storyline, and you guys are going to really enjoy this one. So it's actually going to be for our Halloween special. So we're very excited about that. We have two guests line up. One of the guests is one that I'm really excited about, simply because he's part of our extended family. And the other guest is a guest that I'm excited about too, because she is someone that I've known for a while who has had experiences with like supernatural. So that's why they were both invited to this one. So for our listeners, be prepared because on Halloween, we'll be uploading our Halloween special. So because Halloween lands on Monday and you'll all be partying on Friday and Saturday and recovering Sunday, when you go back to work on Monday morning, you can just hear us and be like, oh, they're keeping Halloween going. You're welcome. so yeah, that's all we're going to talk about for that one. All right. So now we're going on to Act 2, the games. Okay, so we're starting off Act 2 with a little bit of audience feedback. Now for this one, actually, hang on. Give me just a second to pull this one up because I think I might have pulled the wrong one up as I was getting this ready for the episode. Hang on. Let me make sure that I didn't pull the wrong one up. Because I have like all the episode like files saved up. Is it in this one? No, it's not. So the one that I have for this one, it's just someone who doesn't really have a name. It's kind of just like a $F said, love these guys, and Fleur is just amazing. That's what we need, more girl Pokemon geeks. So Flair's not available right now, but yeah, apparently people really like that we have a girl on the podcast. That was intentional. I discussed this with you guys extensively. When we were getting the podcast ready, I pretty much said like I refuse to start until we get a girl. So I was glad that we got her. And then I have another one here. This one just says they stay on topic and don't force me to fast forward through mindless, unrelated chit chat. the episode title games is my favorite segment. So people enjoy the episode titles.
Okay.
And it's funny because it's actually my favorite game that we play. So
It's the hardest one for me.
Is it really?
I don't watch a lot of shows and I don't watch a lot of movies. I think I've said this a couple of times. Like if I have downtime, I would rather be playing something than watching something.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to come up with them sometimes. That's why a lot of my references are usually really dated because it's shows and movies that I remember watching when I was a kid.
Oh, but I'd rather you do that. I would rather you guys use pop culture from all like the decades as opposed to like what's happening this week. I prefer that.
Yeah.
But no, people like the title games. And last night we were at a gamers event here in Houston, and I got to meet one of our listeners there. And he told me that he really enjoyed the title game, actually. His name's Thomas. He was awesome. I really, really enjoyed talking with him. The funny thing is that Thomas is like the very first listener that I ever meet. So instead of him being like, oh my God, it's SirSerrato, it was really me saying, oh my God, you're a listener. I'm so excited to talk to you. So I was fangirling hard. Like, this is an actual listener. He listens to the show. He knows who I am. This is so cool. So we were like on the side of like the bar we were at. We were just talking, and he just said that he really enjoyed the title show. I asked him like, what were some titles that stood out to you? And he just said that he said two things. One, he likes to play along with us when we do the titles. He likes to like think of some of his own. And
so Thomas is a sweetheart. I've known Thomas for a long time now. I play D&D with him, and we often get into moments where we'll like do a long series of puns and just see who like can come up with like the next one after another. It's like all very rapid fire. So yeah, no, I could definitely see how the titles are his favorite part because his brain is just hardwired for that.
Well, that makes sense because his favorite title was one that you gave.
Which one?
It was when we did the Kangaskhan episode, and your Hannah Montana title was Since You've Been Kangaskhan.
Yeah, I could see why he would like that one.
Which was one of my favorite titles. And I just thought that was so hilarious. And I said, I said, yes. That episode, Daramu said, Since You've Been Kangaskhan, and my title was Rockabye Baby Kangaskhan. And I said, they thought I was talking about the nursery rhyme. I'm talking about the stripper song. And he's like, I remember that. But the Since You've Been Kangaskhan was funnier. And I was like, damn it. So I was excited to get to really like have a chance to meet someone that's a huge gamer, someone that listens to the podcast, and someone that just like, I guess when he heard me talking, he was like, oh yeah, you're SirSerrato. I'm like, yes, my voice apparently is distinctive enough. So before we move on to the titles, do you want to give any information about Houston gamers to our listeners, especially like our local Houstonians?
Yeah, so if you're in Houston gamers, we throw usually 2 to 3 events every month. One is handheld, that's usually at Foo Belly over on Westheimer. And then right now we're at Buddies, and that's where we do our main meetup. And pretty much we invite everybody, completely LGBTQ friendly. What we do is we set up video games all around the bar. We usually have Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, Just Dance, and then we always have a fourth one that's like a rotating game. But
you're buffering.
Literally come out, we're there for 9, and then afterward we go bar hopping afterward. Oh, sorry. So is that better?
Yes, go.
Okay, cool. So yeah, we set up our games. We're there from 5 to 9, and we just invite everyone to come out and play some games with us. We go bar hopping afterward, but it's a great community. I've been a part of it for 13 years now, and you know, I've made a lot of really good friendships there. And like I said, since we do invite everybody to come out, it's a really great way to meet other nerds and just kind of nerd out about everything.
And you know what?
Don't just do video games. Like, it's nerd culture, it's, you know, fantasy, it's, you know, pop culture, movies, board games, like video games. Like, it's literally everything that you would want to do with you know, talk about with any other nerd. So feel free to come out and check us out.
And I can confirm that because that's literally how me and you met.
Yeah.
We met what 8 years ago?
Approximately 8 years ago.
8
Yeah.
years ago, yeah. So that's literally how we met. So it literally our relationship is an example of networking.
Yeah.
So it's a great community. I had a blast going. It was my first time going in about 8 years, I have to say. And I was kind of nervous, like, ooh, a lot of the ones that I used to talk to aren't here anymore. It didn't matter. 20 minutes in, I had like four people I was talking to. It was great. There was we had all kinds of people there, and we had like the name tags. The only suggestion I would make is, can we have name tags where we can like circle our chosen pronouns?
Yeah. So we actually have looked into that. We should be getting those within the next meetup and a half. But
Because
we do encourage our members as they're filling out their name badges to put their preferred gender pronouns on their
yes,
badge
please,
because
please, because I
we had a couple
misgendered
people who
someone.
they'll just just put it on there themselves.
And I felt like an asshole because I misgendered someone by accident. And I thought about it and I was like, oh, fuck, I'm at like a LGBT event. I really shouldn't do that.
Well, no.
Um,
So if you misgender someone, the problem isn't misgendering someone because mistakes happen. But if you do realize it, the main thing is treating people like people. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. Just so I can make sure that I'm being respectful. What are your preferred gender pronouns? So that way I can make sure I get it right in the future. Most
yeah,
people are very understanding about that, and they'll educate you. They'll help you out. They'll make sure that you're not and they don't take offense to it. Like, as long as you
oh
approach them
yeah,
with respect, they'll approach you with respect. So,
oh yeah,
yeah,
they were really
don't feel
cool.
bad. As long as you apologize for it, ask them afterwards, you did what you did, or you did what you needed to be a decent human being.
Yeah.
So,
And I was grateful that I wore this shirt last night. I don't know if you can see it. It has blue girl, pink boy on it.
mhm,
And it's kind of like a way of saying like,
trans representation.
yeah, in a way. So I am an ally to the transgender community. I I've had transgender roommates who felt very safe with me. I've had friends who have come out of as transgender. I can't relate, and I can't ever say that I can relate because I cannot relate to it. But as a gay man, I've always had that fear of like, can I really trust this person? Is this person really okay with me?
Hmm.
And I think any gay person knows that feeling. Like you can be cool with them, but you don't know what they're really saying behind your back. And so with like the trans community, I'm very like, you're okay with me. You have a friend in me. Like we're fine. And so when I misgendered them last night, I was like, fuck, I really should have like been more precautious about that. So yeah, no, I'm glad that you guys are having those name tags set for the members because I think that's a great addition for help. So yeah, if you guys ever want to come out to Gamers, please come out. We have some pictures. Fleur couldn't make it last night. She's working all weekend, which is why we're taking a holiday break after our next episode. But yeah, just they're on our Twitter, they're on our TikTok, so just our Instagrams, just take a look at them. Let's move on to the episode titles. Harry Potter. I have Trainer Red and the Bike Blocker.
The bike blocker.
Mm-hmm.
I have Trainer Red and the worst scenic route ever.
Oh, damn. That reminds me of that movie. What is it like? Something in the very bad, worst, horrible day or something?
Yeah.
What?
Um, something and no good, very terrible, very bad day. What is it called?
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I mentioned it in another podcast, but yeah, like I don't remember it right now.
Yeah, that's what that kind of like reminded me of. All
Yeah.
right.
I was thinking specifically of like the B drill scene when I was like, yeah, no, I would be mad if I went off the route and that happened. So,
You did a guest starring in a podcast?
huh?
You were in another podcast?
No, 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 no. I mentioned the book you were referencing in one of our previous podcasts.
Oh, I was like, yeah, the guest starring role, you didn't tell me? Okay, that's a clever one. Uh, for Friends, I have a feeling that we probably have the same one.
Oh no, we don't.
I just did the one with the bike race.
Yeah, no, I did the one with the fine print.
I don't get it.
Because they didn't tell them that they could use Pokemon or that there were going to be obstacles. They kind of had to figure it out. So, the one with the fine print.
The one with the fine print. Love it. I'm typing because I'm writing these down for our Patreon, so like our fans on our Patreon can vote for who has the better one. Okay, Hannah Montana. Now for this one, I actually have two because I had a lot of fun with this one.
Okay.
So I'll give my first one, and then you go, and then I'll give my second one. Because
Hannah Montana was
song titles.
Song titles, okay.
Or lyrics. So the
Okay.
first one I have is Route 11 as a reference to Route 66 by the King Cole Trio.
Okay.
Which I thought was a clever one.
So mine wasn't too clever, but as I was reading this one, I had this like montage going through my head. And in the background of this montage, all I heard was I Drove All Night by Celine Dion. So
oh God, you're gay.
Mine is going to be I Drove All Night.
Can't we do it like I Drove All Day?
Yeah, we can do I Drove All Day or I Drove All Day.
By Celine Dion.
Yeah.
It's funny because they make this really funny joke on Hannah Montana. I never watched it, but when I did watch it, they made this funny joke where the dad says that when he was in a rock band, his drummer's name was Celine Dionowitz. And that he asked him to shorten his last name. And then Hannah Montana, like the daughter, she's like, and the rest practically writes itself. Which I guess is like why he's a failed musician. I don't know, but I know that we reap on Hannah Montana. They had their moments, and that was one of them. I'll give them that one because that was pretty funny. Now, the second song title I had was Life is a Routeway, as Life is a Highway by Tom Cochrane. But the cover that I was familiar with was Rascal Flatts.
Okay. That was the one that was in the Cars movie, right?
Yes. Fun fact. As I was playing this game, I was like, oh, fuck it. So I put that song on and I kept like singing to it as I was like finishing up my notes. And I kept going, Life is a Highway. And I was like playing the game. I probably heard it like 10 times that night. Like I love the Rascal Flatts cover. Now for the Gossip Girl titles, I did Fast and Ferocious as a reference to the Fast and the Furious.
So you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if I've done this one yet, but I did Ratata Race.
Did what?
Ratata Race in reference to the old Rat Race. Rat Race, Cannonball Run, because those are essentially like huge obstacle courses to get from one point to another. So that's my vote is Ratata Race.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the title was kind of hard on this one for me. I just said, I was like, what movies are about races? So you went for like the actual obstacle. I went for the actual race.
Yeah. And like I said, this is the hardest part every week for me is this one right here.
Like, I love this game.
Oh, no, I love it. It's just this is what I like spend most of my week. Like whenever I get a new chapter, half of the week is thinking about what these titles are going to be.
And listeners, you guys are more than encouraged to go to our YouTube and like comment your titles. Like, please, it makes it more fun for us. If we ever do like a season recap, we'll read your titles along with it just to make it fun. I think I win with Life is a Routeway. Or Route 6 or Route 11. I don't know. Well, I just had so much fun with that one.
I'm pretty sure my first two won for sure.
Trainer Red. Oh no.
And the worst scenic route ever. And
yeah, that was pretty good. And the worst scenic bike route ever. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we're moving on to Did You Catch That? All right, Daramu. I need you to close your eyes.
Okay.
All right. What number did the swimmer have on his shirt?
20.
Fuck! You got that! Why?
I don't know if you know this, but I pay attention as I'm reading.
I can see that. I was like, he's not going to get this one. I was so sure I was going to get you on that.
I'm pretty observant when I'm paying attention to things. So.
I'll give you that one. You got that one. Did you have one for this one?
Did you catch that? No.
No.
Yeah, not gonna lie, I'm not prepared for this one. Sorry.
Okay. No issue. All right, we're moving on to the episode rating. So for this one, the plot, I give it a neutral. The script, I give it a neutral. The character development, I give it a good because I love every character being used strategically all throughout. It kind of reminded me of the very first Avengers movie where they made sure to give all 4 superheroes like a moment, you know?
Yeah.
So this one, Red and his Pokemon each having their own moment was just this was fun to watch. The obstacles were good. And overall, it was a good episode. So I give this one a 4. I give it a 4 out of 5 honey roasted Bulbasaur bulb salads.
Okay, so what were the ratings again? We had 3-tier rating, right?
Yeah, bad, neutral, and good. So bad is 0, good is 0.5. Good. No. Bad is 0, neutral is 0.5, and good is 1.
Okay. So plot I would give a neutral. Character development, I would give good. And then what was the last one?
You skipped over script.
And script. Script, I would give good also. I really like this one a lot. I know the math doesn't add up, but I would give it 5 out of 5 pulverizing pancakes.
Really? 5?
I really like this one. It was like one of the first ones since we've been reading where it had a multitude of different Pokemon and it showed like Red really using everything he could to get past them. Like, you know, like the Pokemon that he has, like he used all of them in very unique ways so that way he can get over these obstacles. So if I were reading this for the first time and I hadn't played the games, I would have really liked this a lot.
Yeah, it definitely does have that like feel to it. It's just an overall fun episode to read.
Yeah.
Okay. So I gave it 4, you gave it a 5. And then just the announcements. We've already talked about this. Next week, it's actually our book 1 finale. It's our Lavender Town Halloween special. And since you already knew that, I wasn't going to really give you any clues about it, like any real clues, because I want you to really enjoy this one. I love the Lavender Town story arc. So listeners, you can catch us here on Halloween after you do all your partying the weekend before. So when you're at work hungover, you can enjoy that one. All right. Thank you guys. And I know that I don't like to be, how can I say this? I don't like talking about current events because I don't like to go back and listen to episodes and then have them not be relevant. But we'll do it for this one. If you want to just give our listeners a little information about the upcoming Gamers event, the next one that we're having, in case they want to show up to it.
Okay. Yeah. So our next event is going to be on November 12th. That's going to be at Buddy's over in Montrose. So it's going to be from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. And like I said, we go and bar hop afterwards. So if you're in Houston, you want to come by and check us out, we're going to have video games set up and be a great way to come and talk and meet some nerds.
And I am going to make it to that one. It's on when again?
November 12th. November 12th.
Fuck, that's when I have a cruise on that one as well. But I will try to make the December one. But either way, you guys get to meet Daramu. So it'll be a fun thing for you guys. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. And we will be seeing you guys for the Halloween episode. All right. Just say goodbye to the audience.
Thanks.